Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Ricardo de Jesus Maga Rojas. I am a senior project coordinator at Good Fulton and Farrow. We have a Dallas office, but I'm in the Austin office. I've been there for a little over 8 months now. Started in November. So I was born in Cuba. I have Haitian and Jamaican roots as well, and I trace my lineage all the way back to Nigeria, especially the Yoruba tribe. So that's a little bit about me. I spent most of my time in Miami because after we immigrated to the United States in 1991, 92, that's when my family moved over. We came here on a plane. I know people typically ask like, "Did you come on a boat or a plane?" I'm like, "No, I came on a plane." And then settled in Miami. Spent high school there. Took a drafting magnet and then decided to pursue architecture long term. So I went to Tuskegee University, where I earned a bachelor in architecture and took a year off because of the economy and all of that stuff, and then came to Texas and started at A&M, Texas A&M, and earned a Master of Urban Planning there. I'm hoping to do a lot more community-centric work that explores race and culture and the disparities with they're in. Uh, that's about it. Um, Most recently, I was able to work with my firm to get out a statement on Black Lives Matter and work towards building a more equitable uh, practice for ourselves. And I'm very proud of that. It took having difficult and uncomfortable conversations to get there, but I think I think it's worth it. I will say that it took me some time internally to debate this, and I reached out to several mentors about what should I do and how should I approach this, because I wanted to make sure that I was coming off in from the from the most passionate of places, without seeming like an angry Black person, because that's always something hard that to navigate with, uh, the fact that you don't want to get pinged with the stereotype of the angry Black person. And so for me, something that I really talk about a lot is relying on allies or working with your allies, because we're more effective together than we are apart. And for me, it's been so helpful to have those allies at work, because whenever I feel that I can't get somewhere, there's another passion that's going forward. They're like, no, we're going to keep this momentum going. We're going to bring this up. We're going to make it evident. And it's it's not always easy doing that, because for me, I feel like I've been told I have a type A personality, that I like to be control over everything. So I'm not sure if that's my Cuban roots or what, but it took a lot of effort to kind of just like let go and let someone else, and really trust that, hey, they've got your back. They got your back on this, and they want you, and they want this as a firm to succeed. So I'm very proud of having done that. Uh, that's why I feel that having this platform to speak our voice and to have people hear our voice is important. There are people that have come out to me after I said that on Next Architects. Hey, I got my firm to do this. How did you do it? What did you say? And at the end of the day, it was just speaking up, being the first one to do it. There are times that we take a step back and say that we don't want to do it because we were afraid to be let go, or whatever the case may be. Someone said that to me, actually. They're like, I didn't want to speak because I was afraid I was going to get let go, or and I was like, well, you should have just spoken up. And and I can see how that's not always easy, an easy thing to say, because there are places out there that it doesn't matter for them. It's about coming in and coming to work and billing your time, and that's it. But you can't sit here and tell me that Black Lives Matter, that this is something that's political, and that we can't delve into the politics of things, because that's what AIA is here for. And I say that's crap, because architecture is political. And I have to say that, and I have to give a shout out to Sivone. I'm not sure if she's on here, but Sivone Diaz Sanchez is someone that I've spoken with and interacted a lot. And we vibe on that same mentality that architecture is political. And she comes from things. She's super vocal and super active, and she's encouraged me to continue using my voice. I ran so many things by her, and she was just like, "Go for it." Like we need to be uncomfortable in these times. It's hard, but that's the only way that we're ever going to get through it. So I'm going to go back and say, use your voice. Don't ever be afraid. Find an ally if you are afraid, and if you are a non-Black person that is saying, well, I don't want to speak for all the Black people, that you're not no one should hold you to that, but you should speak up if you feel like there's something wrong that's going on, and work. Always make it a win-win when you bring it up to the firm. It's very easy to sometimes to just nitpick and say we've been doing this wrong forever and ever, but then offer a solution. And I feel like that's where sometimes we fail. We always just want to criticize and not come out with a solution that will work for the mutual benefit of us. And I'm only speaking from one experience. It might be different for other people, but that's why I realize it's important for our voices to be heard.
For sure. What were some of I had kind of two questions, like about how many people would you say did it take to get the firm to take action?
One.
I guess whenever you talk about people maybe that you spoke to and people who actually helped you kind of form this, to the people who actually had to sign the policy or the statement, I guess, like in the total, what was kind of that?
Okay, so it took me reaching out to my studio director, and then maybe there are 5 or 6 people on the management committee, and one other person, maybe 7 or 8, 9.
Okay, I'm just curious. And what were some of the action points? Was it just a statement saying that, hey, we want to just say, hey, we're for this, or did they have like actionable steps what they were going to do?
No, we didn't have actionable steps in our statement. It was more a stance of solidarity, but I did work with my firm to say, hey, if we are going to do something, we should maybe start taking some action now. And before I could speak, they had already formed an EDI committee, more or less, with 2 principals co-chairing it. And so I am very excited to see how this starts to manifest itself, because now we are, each co-chair is responsible for a different aspect. So I'm over recruiting, but someone else is over not policy. One is policy, and then outreach. So the co-chairs will meet internally to discuss, and then we'll go back to management and come up with our ideas. So we're kind of helping do some of the research and informing the future of EDI or JEDI at our firm. And I think it's going great. So we're meeting tomorrow to discuss more.
Yeah,
because at the same time, this takes time from work, right? And especially with COVID adding on the stress to firms, no one wants to. Everyone would want you as a professional. We're meant to always be billing direct time to projects, right? Because that's what we're in it for. So in our conversations as an EDI committee, we want the firm to know that this is a commitment and that they should back this up with time. In my opinion, I don't think that this needs to be something that, just work on it during work hours. If you think this is that important, give us work time. I understand that, maybe due to COVID, we can't bill as much a non-billable time, but that's why we're meeting as co-chairs to kind of start identifying what those hours look like so that we can put some time to it. That's another thing I wanted to add.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've been trying to follow around what your firm's been doing, as well as others that have put up statements, and I see a lot of firms not doing anything. And yeah, I've heard stories of firms retaliating as well. Someone posted that in the feed, and it just goes to show you that the people don't matter. Black people don't matter. Not enough for them to be able to speak up and say something. Because when COVID happened, you can bet every firm was saying something about it, right? But I did not see the same reaction to the Black Lives Matters coming up again. So just something I noticed in the Facebook group. So yeah, I'm trying to keep track of kind of what's going on and how firms are kind of reacting, so we can try to figure out a way to get this all in a way we can spread. How can people begin to talk to their firms about this and get actionable items out of them? So.
Yeah, I think also too, what I'm seeing is that a lot of firms are taking this to heart. I've gotten calls from several leaders of several large design firms that want to make a difference. I mean, they want to be proactive about doing this. And so, my encouragement to everybody listening, so even for the one person that said, hey, I'm concerned about repercussions if I, speak up too loudly, right? Because you don't want to be that squeaky wheel in this situation. But I gotta say that there is enough firms out there and enough firm leaders that are quote unquote woke and understand the deficiencies that exist. I mean, I've had some leaders just say to me, man, I really suck at this understanding of what African Americans are going through. Help me through this. And I'm like, yeah, well, absolutely. I said, first of all, you need to start talking to your people. You need to talk to everybody in the firm and understand, when I say everybody, anybody black or brown in your firm, so that you understand what they're going through on a regular basis. And it's just like some of the stories that we heard the last time around about microaggressions and all of these little things that, we kind of turned a blind eye to because we're just so used to it, right? But I think we're at a day and time when you should never get used to it. And, oh, by the way, if you're good enough as a designer and an architect, you may ultimately need to step out and be somebody's competition, because that's the mindset that I think needs to take place especially with African-American design professionals, that you shouldn't feel like, you shouldn't be walking around like Oliver with your hands out like, more please. It's like, no, this is a chance for us to all elevate our voices and be heard so that people understand what needs to be fixed. And I think from a recruitment perspective, it will benefit well for a firm to improve on the DEI space, or I like the whole JEDI acronym. I think I like the justice, equity, diversion, and inclusion. I'm gonna start using that. But I think that we need to get out there and have the conversation. And yeah, it is gonna offend some clients. It may offend the sensibilities of some people in the C-suite, but we're gonna have to push past this. I think we're at a place in time where we need to do that. And I also think that people need to be able to parse and make the distinctions. The challenge, I think, especially with Black Lives Matter specifically, and I'm just talking about the organization, is that when I articulate why Black Lives Matters, I talk about the Black lives, my 3 sons. Those Black lives matter to me, and the other Black people that I run into on the street. I'm not necessarily talking about, an organization. I'm just saying my Black life matters. And here's why. And and all these panelists, their Black lives matter. And so you need to separate that. And sometimes you got to have a come to Jesus conversation with folks and let them understand what that means. That, yeah, I get it. You might not like some of the things that Black Lives Matters, the organization, does. That's fine. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because it's still a bigger conversation that we need to be having here, and we're finally having it. So let's have it, and don't sit back and say, oh, well, I just don't like the way they handle those things. If they did it differently, if it was more nonviolent or more peaceful, then we'd be okay. The reason why we're even here having this conversation is because people woke up and said, you know what, enough is enough. And there are collateral challenges from that. But I mean, again, talk about it. I mean, I was talking with Marcia earlier. She was talking about her kids. Her kids' Black life matters. That's what, when I say Black Lives Matter, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about an organization, because that's what people generally go to. So you have to drive the conversation and help them understand it, right? Yes, you can look at some of the things that Black Lives Matter does, and you adhere to it. And you say, yeah, I'm all for this, but maybe there's other things about it that maybe you don't agree with. There's some things about Black Lives Matters, and I've studied them intently, that I don't necessarily agree with, but I understand where they're coming from. And that's the idea, is that we need to take time to listen and understand where people are coming from, and too often, people are giving us the gas face and are like, no, I don't want to hear that. And I'm like, no, you need to hear this, because this is important. So I'm just encouraging, especially the younger folks. Well, I'm 51. You younger folks, you need to be sure about yourself and what your abilities are, and know that you're not on the wrong side of this conversation right now. You just aren't. And, you know, you need to hear it from an old head that will tell you, don't be afraid, you know, to thine own self be true, like Shakespeare said. You know, do you, and share with, don't be afraid to share with people what you're dealing with. That's all. I'm sorry. Soapbox. I just wanted to share that.
All good. We still have 6 minutes. Ricardo, if you wanted to add anything.
Well, I'm just going to say that, you know, a lot of people don't want to acknowledge this because they have some kind of, I don't know, if it's shame or regret or what it is. But yep, that's right. Rosa actually made a good point on it. But I'm just going to encourage everyone to just continue using your voice. I know I've had people who reached out to me who said, hey, I was let go from my job. I think it's because I spoke up too much. It wasn't the job for you. I'm sorry to tell you that. You know, I am sorry that you got let go, or I'm sorry you were, you know, but it's time to move on to greener pastures. And I would encourage everyone to, as you continue these interview process, for those of you who are starting to look for work, if you're fortunate enough to find work in this economy, start asking those conversations. Really, first start by looking at your values and what you align yourself with, and really ask those conversations at the beginning, because I feel that that's something that came up for me a lot as I started looking around for firms. Right around the same time you and I met, Adam, I had to make sure that the next firm that I was going to, if I was going to commit the next 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you better have the same values. You know, I'm looking at it like it's going to be a marriage. So just, but make sure that your values align with whatever firm that you work for, because it's your career at the end of the day. So make the most of it.
Yeah. Thanks, Ricardo. Anything else you want to add? Anything, Randy? Anyone else?
I can't wait to hear what these ladies have to say. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to jump back to I saw Julia like making faces at the firm statements.
Yeah.
It's tough right now because I'm sure all of us have been pulled into the room to help craft the firm statement or whatever the firm statement is going to be. And I just want to encourage anyone who is a part of that conversation to not forget about those actionable items as well. Because,
Yes.
you know, it's great if a firm affirms that Black Lives Matter on the website, but then what are they actually doing to back that up? And I think that's what we're starting to see now after all these firms did make those statements. People are going through their websites, they're going through their firm, you know, diversity commitments. And it's like, well, you saying that you commit to diversity is the bare minimum, you know,
Right.
Beyond that, what are you guys doing?
Right. And I agree 100% with Melanie. I think that when the statements were first coming out, we saw the in solidarity with Black lives. We saw kind of like empty statements, and then largely there weren't action items set behind that. And then I think a lot of Black designers went back and pushed for those things, right? And then when you're starting to outline those things and the ways that you're going to move forward, I think a lot of people, if you have the opportunity to in your offices to even like push more and say, okay, what is the makeup of your board of directors? What is the makeup of your studio leaders? What is the makeup of your market directors, right? To really push the issue and say, this is not just a problem for us as employees, but it's a problem for the firm, and it's a problem of the industry in itself. So I agree with you, Melanie.
Yeah.